Jake, breakfast is ready. I called out my son's name while transferring pancakes from the skillet to a plate in the kitchen. Even in December, Phoenix mornings are crisp and refreshing. The morning sun streaming through the window cast an amber glow through the maple syrup bottle on the counter. Coming. I heard an energetic response from upstairs, followed by the sound of little feet scampering down the stairs. Then appeared my 6-year-old son Jake, wearing Spider-Man pajamas. His slightly disheveled brown hair and big blue eyes were identical to my ex-husband, whom I separated from 5 years ago. Oh my, still in your pajamas. You'll be late for school. The clock already showed 6:45. It takes 15 minutes by car to Desert Springs Elementary in the Paradise Valley Unified School District. We need to hurry to make it for the 7:30 start time. But Mom, I can't find my Spidey shoes. Jake said worriedly as he sat in his chair. His beloved Spider-Man shoes were a birthday present from his father last month. Since then, he won't go out without wearing them. Did you check the shoe rack by the door properly? Yes. Then I'll look for them. You eat your breakfast in the meantime. I gently patted Jake's head as he hesitated in front of the warm pancakes, then headed to the entryway. When I opened the shoe rack, sure enough, the red and blue Spider-Man shoes were neatly arranged on the bottom shelf. Found them. When I announced this, a relieved, "Yay," came back from the dining room. These ordinary exchanges are our daily routine. I'm Lisa Walker, a 33-year-old single mother working in accounting at Fry's Food Store, a local supermarket chain. I've always been good with numbers since high school, and after marriage and childbirth, I got my accounting certification. Now I work full-time while living with my only son and my father, who requires nursing care. Good morning, Grandpa. Jake, having finished his meal, went to peek into my father's room on the first floor. My father Thomas suffered a stroke 3 years ago, leaving his right side paralyzed and requiring nursing care. He used to be a high school teacher in the area and raised my sister Rachel and me with great dedication to education. Ah, Jake. You look energetic today. Father reached out his left hand from his seated position on the bed to pat Jake's head. The gesture was identical to how he used to pat us sisters. The home health aide, Martha, said she'll be here at 9 today. Father nodded slightly when I reported this. We use home care services on weekdays. Since my mother passed away 5 years ago, this service has been supporting our life with Father. All right, Jake, time to get dressed. At my hurrying voice, my son waved to his grandfather and bounded up to the second floor. Our morning routine is always precisely timed. Wake up at 6, finish breakfast, get ready, leave home at 7. After dropping my son off at school, my work starts from 8 until 5. My job in the supermarket's accounting department is more fulfilling than I expected. Working with numbers, which I've been good at since high school, might be my true calling. My colleagues are understanding and even allow me to check on my father during lunch breaks. After school, Jake spends time in the after-school program. Though he's not enrolled in any specific activities, I want him to value time spent playing with children his age. He has a bright and sociable personality, and the program staff evaluate him as a child with many friends. When I pick him up after finishing work at 6, he always runs up to me with a beaming smile, calling Mom. Then we head home for dinner preparation, helping Father, and checking Jake's homework. Time flows busily but warmly. Weekends revolve around taking father to his medical appointments. Though the drive to Honor Health Scottsdale Thompson Peak is a bit far, father is satisfied with the treatment there. He seems to be starting to think about inheritance matters lately, but for me, his health is the primary concern. I meet with my ex-husband once a month for Jake's visitation. Our divorce 5 years ago was amicable, without any settlement payments. We maintain a good relationship, partly for Jake's sake. On the other hand, I've been out of touch with my sister Rachel for 3 years. We became estranged over disagreements about father's care. The residential area of Paradise Valley is already starting its Christmas decorations this year. Though neighborhood relationships are modest, they're warm, and I'm proud to live in this area. While we're not wealthy, we manage to get by with father's pension and my salary. "Hey Mom, what's for dinner tonight?" Jake tugged at my arm while I was lost in thought. "Well, how about a rotisserie chicken from Safeway?" "Yay! I love that." My son's smile blows away my fatigue. I believed such simple happiness would surely continue forever. December in Phoenix sees early sunsets. After 4:30 p.m., dusk begins to settle in. In the car heading to the after-school program after work, I was thinking about tomorrow's menu. During this season, the warm light from Desert Springs Elementary School's after-school program building melts into the winter twilight. "Mom!" When Jake spotted me, he ran up with his usual beaming smile. The sound of his Spider-Man shoes tapping lightly on the floor echoed in the quiet hallway. "Today in art class, I made a dinosaur with clay. The teacher said it was really good." Holding hands, my son happily continued talking about his school day. Even after getting in the car, his stories continued with, "and then." We turned from Cave Creek Road onto Tatum Boulevard, following our usual route home. However, when our house came into view, I felt my spine freeze. 2 police cars were parked in front of the house. The words, "Phoenix Police Department," glowed blue in the twilight. 2 uniformed officers and a man and woman in plain clothes appeared to be waiting by the front door. "Look, police officers." Jake pointed curiously. I pulled the car over to the curb with stiff hands and turned off the engine. My heart was pounding violently. I had a feeling that something terribly wrong was happening. When I got out of the car, the woman in plain clothes stepped forward. Showing her badge, she announced in a cold voice, "Mrs. Lisa Walker. We're here to arrest your son Jake on suspicion of theft." My mind went blank. There must be some mistake. My voice was trembling. I unconsciously tightened my grip on Jake's hand. "Mom, that's not true." My son cried out tearfully. His voice made my heart feel like it was shattering into 1,000 pieces. The other plainclothes detective held out a smartphone. It showed security camera footage from the Target Superstore in Paradise Valley Mall. On the screen was indeed a boy who looked exactly like Jake. The same Spider-Man shoes. The same height. The same hairstyle. I couldn't find words. We've confirmed 3 incidents between December 1st and 15th. The female detective continued matter-of-factly. The total value of stolen goods exceeds $5,000. The main items are a limited edition Dragon Quest Masters gaming console worth $500, a complete set of rare figures worth $2,000, and various games and toys totaling $2,500. But that's... Beside me, Jake was trembling slightly. Multiple classmates have testified to receiving the stolen items. Additionally, all crimes occurred between 3 p.m. and 4 p.m., coinciding with the after-school program's free time. No. I didn't. The male detective cut off Jake's desperate voice. The shoe prints also match. We'd like to discuss this matter in detail at the station. During the drive to North Mountain Precinct following the police car, my mind was in chaos. I need to contact father. I need to tell Martha, the home health aide, I'll be late. A lawyer. Various tasks kept surfacing and disappearing in my mind. The police station was wrapped in an unusual tension. When we were shown to the interrogation room, the female detective's attitude suddenly softened. Probably considering Jake's age. However, the male detective maintained his stern expression. Jake, would you like to talk to us? The female detective spoke gently. But my son, clinging to me, just shook his head vigorously. His tear-stained cheek touched my arm. If you tell us the truth, we'll be as accommodating as possible. The male detective pointed to the security camera photos spread on the desk. 3 photos. Indeed, they all looked exactly like Jake. But no. I didn't do it. Jake's cry echoed through the stark interrogation room. While holding my son's shoulders, I was thinking desperately. Searching through memories. True, Jake had recently become interested in games. But I don't remember him begging for a new game console. And the figures. May I call a lawyer? Finally regaining my composure, I made this request. The female detective nodded slightly. Of course. In the meantime, we'll check your child's belongings. The contents of his backpack were carefully examined one by one. Textbooks. Notebooks. Lunch bag. All just normal elementary school items. Outside had completely darkened. Under the harsh fluorescent lights of the police station, I held my son tightly. Was this a nightmare? If I woke up, would our normal daily life, wrapped in the scent of morning pancakes, return? But reality was mercilessly bearing down on us. The interrogation room door opened, and our waiting lawyer, Joseph Martin, entered. He was a veteran lawyer introduced through father's acquaintance. He approached us with a calm expression and first gently patted Jake's head. It's okay, Jake. I'll definitely help you. At those words, Jake's trembling seemed to ease slightly. Attorney Martin turned to face the police and first requested that no further questioning be conducted today, arguing that late-night interrogation was inappropriate for a first-grade elementary student. Let's set up a discussion tomorrow. Tonight, please let this child go home. After some deliberation, the detectives permitted us to go home. However, with the condition that we return to the police station at 10 a.m. tomorrow. When we left the station, the cold night air touched our cheeks. Jake, who got into the car, was still trembling slightly. His reflection in the rearview mirror had completely lost his usual bright expression. Hey, Mom. Yes. Do we have to go back to that place tomorrow? I couldn't answer my son's trembling question. I could only squeeze his hand tightly. While driving through the quiet residential streets of Paradise Valley, my head was filled with questions that kept surfacing. Why did this happen? Why did my son have to face such suspicion? And above all, how could we overcome this situation? The next morning, when I called Desert Springs Elementary School, Principal Anderson's voice was cold. Mrs. Walker, I'm very sorry, but we'd like Jake to stay home until this situation is resolved. The businesslike tone made my heart constrict. But nothing has been proven yet. Multiple students have testified to receiving expensive games and figures from Jake. We're receiving many complaints from parents. Receiving students. I desperately searched my memory, going through Jake's close friends one by one. Who, under what circumstances, would have given such testimony? Could you tell me the names of the children? I'm sorry, but since this is an ongoing investigation. After hanging up the phone, I collapsed onto the living room sofa. Outside the window, the morning sun was shining as usual. But I had a sensation of the world's colors gradually fading away. Mom. A small voice came from the top of the stairs. It was Jake. Last night he had woken up from nightmares multiple times, finally falling asleep only towards morning. In his pale blue pajamas, he looked at me anxiously. Don't I have to go to school? I couldn't answer that question. Instead, I went up the stairs and held him tightly. His small body was trembling slightly. I explained the situation to my supervisor Margaret and took some time off. Lisa, I know your son. I can't believe he would shoplift. Take as many days as you need to get to the bottom of this. Her voice over the phone carried warm consideration. Encouraging messages kept arriving from colleagues too. Let me know if there's anything I can help with. We believe in Jake. However, the reaction from the neighborhood was the opposite. Mrs. Brown from next door, whom I met while taking out the morning garbage, clearly avoided eye contact with me. The greeting we used to always exchange was now just a small murmur into empty space. Martha, who comes to care for father, seemed to have heard the neighborhood rumors too. Everyone seemed surprised that this happened in such a quiet residential area. Her expression as she conveyed this indirectly made me feel unable to stay there. 5 years since starting our life in Paradise Valley. Now, my son and I were gradually becoming isolated from the community we had finally gotten used to. The second police interview. This time we were allowed to examine the security camera footage in detail. Indeed, a boy who looked exactly like Jake. But something felt off. The way he walked. His expression. At this time, my son should have definitely been in after-school care. There should be records, right? However, the detective coldly stated that the video timestamp completely matches the after-school program's free time. 3 incidents. Thursday, December 1st, Thursday the 8th, and Thursday the 15th. All between 3 p.m. and 4 p.m. After returning home, I wrote out a timeline in my notebook. Evidence of alibis. Unnatural points. Noting down concerning aspects one after another. I also requested verification of the security camera footage. But they said results wouldn't come immediately. The hardest part was seeing Jake's condition. Hey Mom, will Santa still come this year? With just a week until Christmas, there was no hope in my son's voice. During what should be an exciting season, Jake became increasingly withdrawn to his room. He stopped wearing his Spider-Man shoes. Calls from friends gradually decreased. Even weekend visits with his father, which were previously arranged, now seemed to weigh heavily on him. I didn't do anything wrong. At night, while sleeping next to him, Jake muttered softly, "I believe you." While holding him tightly, I declared, continuing to believe in this child. That was the only certain thing I could do right now. I visited the Target superstore several times. The location of security cameras, the product display areas, and information about the students who supposedly received the stolen goods. Little by little, but surely, we had to get closer to the truth. I also consulted with the Paradise Valley Unified School District office. Mr. Blake, Jake's teacher, testified about his usual behavior. He's a bright and honest student. I've never seen him bully others or tell lies. But now, even those words couldn't change the situation. Cars passing in front of our house clearly slowed down to observe us. Anonymous letters of criticism began to appear in our mail. Should we move away? We also needed to consider placing father in a care facility. However, there were things to do before that. The footage of the incidents, the students who received the goods, and the existence of a boy who looked exactly like Jake. I will definitely unravel these mysteries. The situation changed when that phone call came. Mrs. Walker, this is Phoenix PD North Mountain Precinct. We've found new footage. Could you come immediately? When I arrived at the police station, that female detective was waiting. The monitor showed footage from a different angle at the Target superstore. This is from a security camera near the emergency exit at the back of the store. It's filmed from a different location than the previous footage, but the footage clearly showed a boy who looked just like Jake. But this time, he wasn't alone. A woman in a suit was holding the boy's hand. And more than anything, this child's walk is different from Jake's. I couldn't help but exclaim. The boy in the footage had a slight limp in his right foot. Though he wore the same Spider-Man shoes, his movement was clearly different from Jake's. Actually, we also received photos from a shopper. The photo the detective presented showed a clear profile of the woman. A familiar profile. But it was my sister, who had been out of contact for 3 years. Rachel. The moment I spoke that name, all the pieces started falling into place. The police quickly changed the direction of their investigation. Rachel Walker. My sister, who had cut off contact 3 years ago over disagreements about father's care. And she had a son, Daniel, the same age as Jake. When school photos were obtained, the striking similarity between Daniel and Jake became apparent. Eyes shaped like father's. Nose bridge like mother's. They looked so identical, it was hard to believe they were just cousins. What proved decisive was the re-questioning of witnesses. Actually, the toys were given to me by a lady I didn't know. One student nervously began to speak. He said she approached him in the parking lot, saying, "I have something nice for you." But she told me to keep quiet. I was scared. Similar testimonies began to gather. Rachel had been systematically distributing stolen goods to Jake's classmates. Moreover, she had carefully chosen when to do it. On Thursdays, there's free time in after-school care, so Jake could slip out. Meticulous preparation to make it seem that way. Making her son wear the same Spider-Man shoes, committing crimes at the same time. Silencing the children who received the goods, to use as evidence later. Everything was planned to frame my son. And Jake's alibis were verified one after another. During Thursday free time, Jake was always in the art room playing with clay. The after-school care instructor testified. At the time shown on the security cameras, my son was definitely inside the school. Rachel had been living about 30 minutes by car from father's house. After her divorce, she had been moving between part-time jobs due to financial difficulties. And she had been harboring resentment towards me for taking sole responsibility for father's care. Let me help with dad's care too. I should have rights to the house too, shouldn't I? That's what my sister had demanded 3 years ago. But by then, father was already accustomed to living with me and strongly refused to change his environment. After that, Rachel suddenly cut off contact and moved away. Mounting financial struggles. Late child support payments. And anxiety over inheritance rights to father's house. All of these had cast shadows on my sister's heart. The arrest was carried out quietly. Rachel offered no resistance and admitted to all charges. Her son Daniel had just followed along, told he would get games, without knowing his mother's plan. My sister takes everything. Her words in the interrogation room left me speechless. I never knew my own sister's hatred ran so deep. When the truth of the incident came to light, circumstances changed rapidly. Desert Springs Elementary School officially approved Jake's return. Principal Anderson personally offered words of apology at a school assembly. We now know that Jake did nothing wrong. Let's all get along well again. Classmates gradually began to speak to Jake again. Tentatively, but with genuine kindness. Even the children who had received the goods came to apologize with their parents. The neighborhood's attitude changed too. You've been through so much. I'm truly sorry. Mrs. Brown came to visit with a homemade chocolate cake. Our warm relationships began returning one by one. When we got home, Jake was wearing his Spider-Man shoes for the first time in a while. Mom, can I go to the park? His voice had regained its lost vitality. On Christmas Eve night, we were quietly embracing in front of the living room tree. Father joined us in his wheelchair, sharing this small family moment. Outside, stars twinkled in the Paradise Valley night sky. The painful days we'd been through seemed to fade away like a bad dream. Rachel's arrest was carried out that evening. When Phoenix PD investigators surrounded her apartment, she seemed to have already realized everything. I'm sorry. Just before being handcuffed, she whispered softly to me. Her eyes mixed hatred, regret, and deep exhaustion. Daniel, standing beside her, stood dazed, unable to comprehend what was happening. I'll take care of Daniel. How painful it was to say those words. But I felt it was my responsibility as a sister and an aunt. During the trial after indictment, all the truth came to light. After her divorce, Rachel had accumulated debt from financial hardship and pinned her hopes on inheritance rights to father's house. However, she felt those hopes were dashed when father chose to live with me. The defendant is hereby sentenced to 2 years imprisonment, suspended for 4 years, for charges of theft and exploitation of a minor. Rachel kept her head deeply bowed as the verdict was delivered in court. Afterward, she entered a rehabilitation program and began receiving counseling. Daniel temporarily stayed at a children's home but was arranged to spend weekends at our house. Christmas morning, 2 red boots were placed in the living room. One for Jake and one for Daniel. The 2 children were initially shy and kept their distance, but gradually warmed up to each other while opening presents. Hey, Mom. Jake looked up at me while spreading out his presents. Will Aunt Rachel be able to spend Christmas with us again someday? That innocent question made my eyes well up. Indeed, the wounds were deep and would take time to heal. But I too secretly hoped for the day when we could gather again as a family. Father watched silently from his wheelchair. Quiet tears glistened in his eyes. As the new year arrived, tranquility returned to Paradise Valley. But it was different from before, carrying a gentler air. Though wounded, we had found stronger, deeper connections. While slipping Santa's letter into the red boots by the entrance, I found myself praying. May we spend next Christmas with Rachel too. And may this family's wounds heal, little by little.